afternoon. Brother Fred stole all my materials, so thank you very much. Good night. Fred didn't tell the whole truth about some of the things. He did tell the truth in most cases, but he did leave out a few things. Fred was pretty mischievous during the trip, wasn't he, Brad? Fred also snores, by the way. We do have it on tape. We'll be selling copies after the service tonight. It was a great time. We got to experience a lot. I talked in Sunday school this morning a little bit about the trip, and we don't have time to tell everything I even told this morning, but I did talk a long time during my class that night. I thought it was like 10 minutes, but they said it was an hour and a half. So, but anyway, we had a good time. It's a different world there. We saw a lot of things that you don't see here. It's like a step back in time when you go to a country like that. I think at one time Venezuela was probably a prospering country. Their infrastructure is there in place. You know, they've got, looks like they had good roads at one time, but it's all in disarray now. I asked someone, how often they paved the roads, and they said when you couldn't drive anymore, that's when they paved them. And some of those roads were about ready to get paved, right? But the country was poor. First thing I noticed after leaving the airport was the people. Just thousands and thousands of people standing along, lining the roadways, sidewalks, laid up against buildings. Most had a beer in their hand, and just standing there, no purpose. They kind of were wandering aimlessly. That's what the word I used this morning in Sunday school. Just nothing to do. It's a country that definitely needs the gospel. We at the church, of course, we were there with the Christians, our brothers and sisters, but the country as a whole, the people as a whole that we saw were just worldly, and they definitely need the gospel, and that's why we were there. As Brother Fred said, we didn't get a chance to share the gospel as much as we wanted to. We did some work and some other things, the basketball clinics and things, but they definitely need the Word of God. We hopefully spread some seed, and I'd love to see those seeds grow. For the first night at the church when we had the welcoming service, as Brother Fred said, the people were just wonderful. Warm, loving, the kids. All the kids would come up to you, and Brad had his own little following of little kids. He met the last time they were there, but they were just warm, and they all, pretty much all the kids knew how to say, "I love you, I love you, I love you," and they would come up to you and tell you that, and they'd all kiss you on the cheek and things. But it's a wonderful experience. I'm not going to talk as long as I did at the service that night, but just tell you a few things that I noticed. And as I said, mostly people, poverty, the houses, the buildings. A lot of times, just out, you'd see just old shacks that we've got better dog houses in some cases than what the people have to live in. There's just so much poverty, trash. We think we've got it bad. Sometimes we'll go down to some of these places where people dump trash in DeKalb County, and you think it's an eyesore. I mean, it is, but it's nothing compared to what you see over there. Between the camp where we stayed and Guigwe, there were just mounds and mounds of trash piled up. One spot in particular was real bad. The van driver, one night his van broke down, and he was late picking us up. Actually, they picked us up in a car, and but he said, now, as we drive through this neighborhood, he said, hope that we don't break down, because if we do, he said, we're going to leave the vehicle and we'll all walk as fast as we can. And it was that kind of a neighborhood. But on the high side, the people, as I said, were just loving. The basketball clinics Brother Keith taught. One day we had, and one thing that we didn't get a chance. The country there, or the way of life, is more laid back than it is here, and they don't really go on a schedule. I mean, time to them really does not mean anything, which, could be good, but in some cases when you're trying to get something accomplished, it's not. But we went to the basketball courts the first morning for Brother Keith to do a clinic, and they were playing soccer. So we sat there and waited for the soccer game to be over, and it just kept going on and on. So finally, during one of the intermissions, we all broke apart and went up and witnessed to the crowd, all kids. And the second day, we went back hoping, we'll do a clinic today. Second day, got back and they were playing soccer again. So we broke loose and went to another basketball court across the complex, and we were sitting there just kind of hoping to get some people involved. And all at once, this group of kids came up, all in uniforms. As Brother Fred said, they all wear uniforms. These were high school kids. And they had a teacher that was a karate expert or something. But they got curious and they came over, and Brother Keith started to do his basketball demonstration. And after the end, of which it was very, very good, and they were all really interested. At the end, they all sat down, and Brother Keith shared the gospel with them. And we had 3, I think, raise their hand the first time. And Brother Keith went over and prayed with them. As they prayed, we continued to share, and a couple more raised their hands. So I asked Brother Fred if he'd carry those over and pray with them. And there were 2 or 3 more, and then a couple more raised their hands, so they went over in the group. And eventually, as kids do here, they see their friends go and they want to go. And so eventually the whole crowd went over and were praying, but we're sure that at least 10 to 12 of those kids were truly serious about their salvation and about wanting to get saved. We had one boy that was, and I heard that this was a Catholic school. I'm not sure if that was correct or not, but one of the boys that was saved was Catholic, and he came back to the service every night, and he was real faithful. But the first night that he came to service, they had a discussion, and he had a lot of questions, and so Brother Brad and Brother Keith kind of talked with him about the questions that he had. But he was faithful. He came every night. He was curious, but I think he was truly a boy that got saved, and he was glad to be saved and glad to know the Lord. But he actually came on the farewell night and joined us.